January 11th, 1944. 11:14 in the morning, 4 miles above Oschersleben, Germany. Major Jack Harrison circles his P-51B Mustang at 24,000 feet. Below him, through broken clouds, 30 German fighters dive towards 60 American B-17 bombers. The temperature reads negative 42 degrees Fahrenheit. His oxygen mask freezes against his face. Ice crystals form on the rubber seal where breath meets metal. His hands go numb inside leather gloves despite silk liners underneath. At this altitude, cold does not just hurt. Cold kills, slowly, quietly. Fingers lose feeling first, then toes. Frostbite claims flesh while your mind focuses on staying alive through other dangers. Through gaps in winter clouds below, he watches Messerschmitt Bf-109s and Focke-Wulf FW-190s dive in formation. Black crosses painted on wings. German fighters hunting American bombers like wolves after wounded elk. 30 against 60. 600 American airmen trusting that fighter escort would protect them this deep into Reich territory. Trusting promises made by generals who said the new P-51 Mustang could go all the way to target and back. Trusting that today would be different than Black Thursday 3 months ago, when bombers went alone and 60 flying fortresses never returned, and 600 men died because American fighters turned back at the German border. His 4-ship flight scattered 5 minutes ago, chasing separate German attack from different angle. His radio crackles nothing but static and ionosphere interference. He calls out into empty air. Hawk Flight Leader to Hawk 2, Hawk 3, Hawk 4. Nobody answers, just white noise. Just understanding that arrives slowly, then suddenly, like dawn breaking over frozen landscape. He is alone. One P-51 Mustang between 30 German fighters and 60 American bombers. Between predators and prey. Between massacre and survival. Between mathematics that say impossible and duty that demands continuation. The mathematics are brutal and clear. One fighter cannot stop 30. Every tactical manual says this. Every combat doctrine confirms it. Every instructor who trained him emphasized this fundamental truth. Wait for reinforcements. Maintain numerical advantage. Never engage when outnumbered more than 2 to 1. Common sense agrees completely. Dying achieves nothing when dying is certain, and achievement requires survival to matter. But Jack carries something that overrides mathematics and doctrine and common sense. A letter in his flight suit pocket, positioned right over his heart. Written yesterday afternoon by his wife Helen. Arrived this morning before dawn, broke over England. 2 sentences that burned themselves into his memory like a brand pressed into flesh. David died because fighters turned back at the border. Please bring them home, Jack. All of them. Lieutenant David Bennett, Helen's younger brother, 27 years old when he died. October 14th, 1943. Black Thursday, they call it now. The Schweinfurt ball-bearing raid that nearly ended daylight bombing forever. 60 B-17s shot down in a single mission. 600 American airmen lost in one day. David among them, burned over Germany because American fighters could not fly that deep into hostile territory. Because P-47 Thunderbolts ran out of fuel and range. Because P-38 Lightning struggled at high altitude in cold, thin air. Because bombers needed protection that did not exist yet. Protection that exists now in the form of this silver Mustang with its British Merlin engine. Protection that Jack flies today. Protection that means nothing if he turns back when turning back is safer. 30 German fighters below diving toward bombers. 60 American bombers heading home after successful strike. One P-51 Mustang circling above making impossible decision. Helen's letter over his heart. David's death, 3 months old but grief still raw and bleeding. Promise never spoken aloud but understood completely through that mysterious communication between husband and wife, where words become unnecessary because understanding runs deeper than language ever reaches. Understanding that turning back means abandoning these bombers to the same fate David suffered. Understanding that staying means probable death, but certain purpose. Understanding that some things matter more than survival, when survival requires living with knowledge that you quit when continuation was possible. Jack pushes the stick forward. The P-51 noses over. Dive angle 60 degrees. Airspeed building fast like water accelerating down steep hill. 200 knots, 300, 400, 420. The airframe vibrates, compressibility effects at Mach 0.75. Wind screams past canopy, but American engineering holds. Rivets stay tight. Aluminum skin flexes but does not tear. The propeller screams like Banshee. The engine roars 1,200 horsepower, Packard-built Merlin Fury. Silver Mustang diving alone toward 30 German fighters who do not see him yet because sun sits behind him and they focus on easier prey below. Freeze this moment. Understand this decision. Go back to beginning. Learn how Kansas City boy who grew up 3 blocks from small airport became only fighter pilot in European theater to receive Medal of Honor. Understand what promises mean when promises cost everything. Understand that courage is not absence of fear. Courage is continuing despite terror that threatens to freeze hands on stick and cloud judgment and whisper that survival matters more than duty. Courage is choosing duty anyway. January 11th, 1944. The day one pilot proved that impossible means only difficult when Will refuses to accept mathematics as final arbiter. That promises matter more than survival when promises are made to wives who lost brothers. That bringing them home matters more than bringing yourself home when them are 600 souls and yourself is only one. Go back to the beginning, to Kansas City, to childhood that shaped this warrior, to understanding that some people are built differently, not through choice, but through something forged in youth. Kansas City, Missouri, 1925. Jack Harrison is 14 years old. Jack grows up in small house 3 blocks from Fairfax Airport. The house sits in working-class neighborhood where fathers work with their hands and mothers stretch every dollar. His father works the Kansas City stockyards. Coming home each night smelling of cattle and honest sweat, his mother teaches elementary school. Patient voice, firm discipline, belief that education lifts people higher than any ladder. Their home is not fancy. 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom. Kitchen where whole family eats together every night at 6 o'clock sharp. Living room with radio that brings world into their parlor through crackling speakers. American middle class before depression changes everything. Before prosperity becomes memory and jobs become scarce and soup lines become normal. But young Jack does not care about economics or class or any of that. Because 3 blocks away, possibility lives in canvas and wire. At Fairfax Airport, barnstormers land their biplanes on weekends. Male pilots refuel between runs. World War I veterans fly Curtiss Jennies and standard biplanes, giving rides for $5, teaching boys about freedom that exists nowhere else except sky. Jack spends every Saturday at that airport, walking those 3 blocks like pilgrim to shrine, watching takeoffs and landings with eyes that miss nothing, studying how pilots work the stick, how they manage throttle, how they read wind by watching smoke rise from farmhouse chimneys 2 miles distant. Understanding through pure observation what textbooks could never teach and schools could never convey. At 14, Jack starts washing aircraft in exchange for flying lessons. Old barnstormer named Pete Williams makes the deal. Former Army pilot who flew over France in 1918, shot down 3 Germans before armistice. Now he makes living flying paying customers over Kansas City and teaching boys who cannot pay in cash, but pay in sweat instead. Pete teaches Jack that flying is not magic. Flying is skill. Practiced, learned, mastered through repetition until hands move without thinking and eyes see things before mind processes them. Pete teaches the feel of stick, how it goes mushy just before stall, how it vibrates when you push too hard into wind, how it speaks to you if you listen with your hands instead of your ears. Jack solos at 16. Technically illegal, but airport manager looks away. Good pilots are rare. Natural talent is obvious. This boy who flies Jenny smoothly at 16 will be exceptional at 20 when legal and trained. By 18, Jack has 200 hours in his logbook, barnstorming across Kansas and Missouri and Oklahoma, wing walking at county fairs where crowds gasp, parachute jumps that make children dream, aerobatics over small towns where people point up and wonder. Everything pays just enough for next tank of gasoline, next meal, next chance to fly. His father watches this with mixed feelings, pride and worry fighting inside chest. One night at dinner, Jack asks a question that has sat between them for years. Why did you never fly, Dad? His father sets down fork. Looks at sun with eyes that have seen too much. Ground belongs to everyone, he says slowly. Sky belongs to brave. I was brave enough for ground, for trenches in Meuse-Argonne, for machine gun nests and poison gas, but not brave enough for not brave enough to trust canvas and wire when failure at altitude means death with no second chances. He pauses, cuts meat, continues. You are different, son. You have sky in your blood. I see it in how you watch those planes. Go fly. Do what I could not do. Be who you are instead of who I wish I was. Permission granted, understanding given. Father acknowledging that children exceed parents when parents allow it. 1936. Jack joins Army Air Corps. Not because war threatens, because military is only path for working-class Kansas City boy to fly professionally during Depression. Civilian flying jobs are scarce. Competition brutal. But Army offers regular pay, regular flying, regular meals. Structure that barnstorming lacks. Basic training, advanced training, fighter training. Jack chooses fighters over bombers because fighters are solo. Pure connection between pilot and machine. No crew, no committee, no compromise. Fighter pilot makes his own decisions. Lives or dies by his own skill. That appeals to boy who understands ultimate responsibility belongs to individual. 1940. Jack meets Helen Bennett at Kansas City USO dance. He is young lieutenant home on leave. 29 years old, uniform pressed, shoes shined. Uncomfortable in crowds but trying to be social because mother insisted. Helen is nursing student at local hospital. 28 years old, practical, intelligent, beautiful in way that combines physical attraction with deeper compatibility that makes conversation easy and silence comfortable. They dance, they talk, they understand each other through chemistry that analysis cannot explain. She gets that flying matters to him more than anything except her. He gets that nursing matters to her more than anything except him. Different callings, same devotion, same understanding that purpose matters more than comfort. They marry 6 weeks later. Fast, like pilots, marry. Before deployment, before separation. Before anything can prevent what both know is right. Some decisions are obvious. Questioning them creates doubt where certainty serves better. Jack Jr. is born in 1941, Emma in 1943. 2 children, normal American family, house in Kansas City 3 blocks from where Jack grew up. Same neighborhood, different times because Depression is ending, but war is threatening and world changes in ways that make normal family life seem precious. Helen works at hospital. Jack flies wherever Army sends him. Routine military separation. Weeks apart, months apart. Reunions brief and intense. Children growing up understanding that daddy flies airplanes, which makes daddy special, but also makes daddy absent. Normal for military families. Acceptable because service matters. December 1941. Pearl Harbor changes everything. Jack volunteers for Flying Tigers. Claire Chennault's American Volunteer Group, fighting Japanese in China before official American involvement. Helen opposes it initially. War has not been declared formally yet. Jack would be mercenary, risking life for foreign country, leaving family for longer than normal deployments. But Jack explains and Helen understands. Experience in China will matter when America enters war officially. Being first means being prepared. Being prepared means surviving. She agrees because she always understands what matters even when understanding costs her comfort. China from 1941 to 1943, 86 combat missions, flying P-40 Warhawks with shark teeth painted on nose, fighting Japanese Zeros over Burma Road, over Kunming. Over everywhere, American volunteers try to keep China in war. Learning air combat from experience because experience is only teacher that matters when mistakes kill. Jack learns lessons written in blood and smoke. Aggression wins fights. Hesitation kills. One aggressive pilot beats 3 cautious pilots when aggression is applied correctly. Energy management matters more than raw speed. Position matters more than firepower. Seeing enemy first matters more than flying better because unseen enemy kills before fight begins. 86 missions teach 86 lessons. September 1943, Jack returns to United States. Flying Tigers disband. Regular military absorbs volunteers. Jack rejoins Army Air Corps with his rank and experience. Gets assigned into 354th Fighter Group. First unit receiving new P-51B Mustang. Pioneer Mustang Group. Testing whether theory works. Whether P-51 can really escort bombers deep into Germany. Whether long-range escort is possible, or whether physics says impossible. Helen and children wait in Kansas City. Same house, same neighborhood. Life continuing as normally as possible while Jack risks everything testing experimental fighter. October 14th, 1943. Black Thursday changes everything. Lieutenant David Bennett flies B-17 with 401st Bomb Group. His 7th mission. 27 years old. Helen's younger brother. The one she helped raise after parents died in car accident back in 1905. The one who followed Jack into military because Jack made aviation seem like purpose instead of just job. The one who chose bombers over fighters because David was social where Jack was solitary and crew mattered to him. The mission targets ball-bearing factories at Schweinfurt. Deep into Germany, 291 B-17s, nearly 3,000 American airmen, flying beyond range of P-47 escort, going alone into German airspace where Luftwaffe fighters wait, where flak concentrates, where everything depends on defensive firepower and courage and luck. German fighters hit them 100 miles before target. Messerschmitts and Focke-Wulfs from multiple squadrons, coordinated attack, overwhelming force. Bombers fight back, shoot down Germans. But physics favors attackers. Fighters choose angle and speed and surprise. Bombers fly straight, maintaining formation. David's B-17 takes 20mm cannon hits at 11:23 in the morning. Number 3 engine catches fire. Fuel fire spreading despite crew efforts. Pilot orders everyone to bail out. 6 crew members jump. Parachutes open. They will survive as prisoners. David stays at controls, keeping aircraft level so crew can escape safely. Last man jumps at 11:25. David tries following. At 11:26, right wing separates from fuselage. B-17 enters uncontrollable spin. David never gets out. Witnesses see impact 40 miles north of Schweinfurt. No parachute, no survival, just impact and explosion and smoke. The telegram arrives Kansas City on October 18th. Helen answers door, sees Western Union messenger, knows before opening envelope, knows from his face, knows from telegram weight. Opens it, reads words confirming what heart already understands. Killed in action, missing presumed dead. No remains recovered, regret to inform. Helen sits at kitchen table crying. Not hysterical, just quiet tears for loss too deep for drama. David is gone. Will never return. Will never meet niece and nephew properly. Will never fly again. Will never laugh again. Will never be anything except memory and photograph and telegram. Jack is in England when Helen's letter reaches him. Takes 4 days crossing Atlantic. Her handwriting shakes, but words cut clear. David died because fighters turned back at border. They escorted to Germany, then left bombers alone. No protection, no help. Just bombers against German fighters. Jack, promise me something. Promise you will not turn back. Promise you will stay with bombers. Promise you will protect them all the way. Promise David's death means American fighters learn to finish missions. Promise me they come home. All of them. Every single one. Jack reads letter alone in barracks. Makes promise silently. No witnesses needed. No ceremony required. Serious promises need no theater. Just understanding. Just commitment. Just acceptance that some things must be done regardless of cost. He folds letter carefully, places it in footlocker, writes Helen back that same night. Words come hard, but they come. I promise they will come home. All of them. David's death will mean something. I will make it mean something. December 5th, 1943. First long-range escort mission. 36 P-51Bs from 354th Fighter Group escort bombers to Paris and back. First time American fighters penetrate that deep. First time bombers have protection throughout mission. Proof of concept. 0 bombers lost. Mustang works. But proving once is insufficient. Need to prove repeatedly. Need to prove reliability matches capability. January 1944. Multiple escort missions. Building experience, learning aircraft quirks, understanding that Merlin engine is temperamental, that fuel management differs from P-47, that combat at extreme range requires discipline. Jack writes Helen regularly. Operational security prevents details, but reassurance is possible. P-51 works. Range is real. We protect them now. David's death mattered, changed everything. Fighters stay now, bombers come home. Helen writes back on January 10th. The letter arriving morning of January 11th. Children ask when you return, she writes. I tell them after war, after bringing everyone home. David would be proud. You are doing what he needed someone to do. Thank you. Be careful. Come home yourself. But others need you more right now. Do what must be done. 0630 hours. January 11th, 1944. RAF Boxted. Briefing room fills with pilots. Coffee brews in metal urns. Smell fills room. Dark and strong. Cigarette smoke rises towards ceiling fans turning slowly. Men gather wearing leather jackets over uniforms. Some talk quietly. Some sit silent. Everyone knows today is deep penetration into Germany. Colonel Robert Duke Mitchell stands at map showing England and France and Germany. Red line traces bomber route. Blue line shows fighter escort zones. Gap where P-47 Thunderbolts must turn back. Gap where P-51 Mustangs take over. Gap where David died. Gap Jack has promised to close. Target is Focke-Wulf factory at Oschersleben. 220 aircraft monthly producing FW-190 fighters. Strategic target. Heavy defenses expected. German fighters will contest aggressively. Mitchell explains fuel management. Drop tanks carry extra fuel externally. Burn those first. Switch to internal tanks after externals empty. Monitor gauges constantly. Extended combat means insufficient fuel for return. Choose engagements carefully. Priority is protecting bombers, not chasing kills. Intelligence estimates 100 German fighters within range. Messerschmitts and Focke-Wulfs. Experienced pilots. Veterans from Russia and France. Survivors who survived because they are skilled and lucky. Jack's assignment is Hawk Flight. 4-ship flight. Top cover for 4 First Bomb Group. Same group David flew with. Protecting them is keeping promise to Helen. 0745 hours. Pilots walk to aircraft. P-51B Mustangs sit on hard stands. Silver metal gleams in weak January sun. Ground crews finish final checks. Jack walks to his aircraft. Checks what mechanics already checked. Trust is essential, but verification is wise. Technical Sergeant Henry Walsh reports status. Everything checked. Guns loaded. 650 caliber Browning machine guns. 3 per wing. 412 rounds per gun. 2,472 rounds total. Fuel tanks full. 280 gallons internal, plus 2 drop tanks of 175 gallons each. Jack climbs into cockpit. Routine familiar, but never routine. Settle into seat. Adjust harness. Connect oxygen mask. Connect radio cord. Check instruments. Fuel showing full. Oil pressure good. Everything working. Helen's letter sits in flight suit pocket over heart. 2 sentences. David died because fighters turned back. Please bring them home. Promise made. Promise being tested today. 0815 hours. Engines start across airfield. 50 P-51B Mustangs. Pioneer Mustangs. 1,200 horsepower Merlin engines roar. Propellers spin. Smell of high-octane fuel. Sound of power. Sound of American engineering answering American need. 0830 hours. Takeoff begins. Jack rolls down runway. Airspeed builds. 80 knots, 100, 120. Stick back. Nose lifts. Airborne. Gear up. Flaps up. Climb power. Everything working. Formation joins over English coast. 50 Mustangs flying east. Toward Germany. Toward bombers needing protection. Toward everything. Helen's letter over heart. Promise in pocket. 300 miles to German border. 11:14 approaches. Moment approaches. Decision approaches. The bombers appear below at 11:10. 60 B-17s in formation. Contrails marking their path. Heading home after bombing target. Smoke rises from Oschersleben. Mission accomplished for them. Now just survival. Just getting home. 11:12. Jack's flight scatters. German fighters attacking from different angle. Radio calls to pursue, to engage. Jack finds himself alone at 11:14, circling above bombers. Then he sees them. 30 aircraft diving from altitude. Black crosses on wings. Coming fast. Coming hard. Coming for bombers with no other protection visible. This is the moment. Mathematics say turn back. One cannot stop 30. Doctrine says wait. Common sense says survive. But Helen's letter burns against Tom's chest. David died because fighters turned back. Please bring them home. Jack makes his choice. Only choice possible. Only choice that lets him look at Helen again. Only choice that honors David. Only choice that keeps promise. He pushes stick forward. Mustang noses over. 60 degrees down. Airspeed building, 1 against 30. Impossible odds. Perfect clarity. Bringing them home. All of them. Like he promised. Whatever it costs. The silver Mustang screams down toward 30 German fighters who do not see him yet. Sun behind. Promise ahead. Mathematics say this cannot work. Jack Harrison does not care what mathematics say. Mathematics did not write Helen's letter. Mathematics did not kill David. Mathematics will not determine whether these bombers come home. Will determines that. Courage, promise. And Jack Harrison made a promise. The dive continues. 400 miles per hour. 420. Approaching the moment that will define everything. 1 against 30. 37 minutes of fury about to begin. Bringing them home. No matter what. Because some promises cannot be broken. Because some debts must be paid. Because some brothers deserve someone staying when everyone else turns back. Today, Jack Harrison stays. Today, mathematics lose. Today, promises win. The silver Mustang dives. Alone, committed, unstoppable. 11:14 hours and 30 seconds. 22,000 feet above Oschersleben. Jack comes from above at 420 miles per hour. Sun sits behind him. Germans focus on bombers below. They do not see the P-51 diving until too late. His 650 caliber machine guns converge on the nearest FW-190. Lead computing gun sight solves deflection angle automatically. Modern American technology meeting, German steel. He squeezes, trigger smooth. All 6 guns fire simultaneously. Cyclic rate 300 rounds per minute per gun means 90 rounds scream downrange in 3 seconds. Armor-piercing incendiary rounds mixed with tracers. Every 5th round glows red hot. Trajectory becomes visible. Corrections become possible in real time. The rounds walk from FW-190 tail toward cockpit like deadly staircase climbing fuselage. Tail surfaces disintegrate under impact. Control cables sever. Elevator authority gone. Rudder torn away. The fighter tumbles into uncontrolled spin. Pilot never sees what kills him. Just spinning and ground approaching and understanding arriving too late to matter. Too late to bail out. Too late to do anything except fall. First kill. 38 seconds since dive began. Jack pulls up hard. 7 Gs crush him into seat. Blood drains from head toward feet. Vision tunnels. Gray edges close in from periphery. Physics demands payment for violent maneuver. He eases pressure slightly. Peripheral vision returns. Heart pounds against ribs. Breathing comes ragged through oxygen mask. But he is alive. Functional, capable of continuing. Mind clear despite body protesting. He rolls inverted. Spots BF-109 below. Pulls through. Dives again. This violates American doctrine. Doctrine says maintain energy advantage. Climb after first attack. Reset positioning. Choose next target carefully from position of strength. But Jack does not follow doctrine written by men who never faced 30 fighters alone. Jack attacks continuously. Uses surprise and aggression and violence of action that Germans do not expect because nobody attacks 30 fighters deliberately without support. Second burst. 3 seconds. 90 more rounds. BF-109 canopy explodes in shower of plexiglass and metal fragments. Pieces spiral away catching winter sunlight. Pilot slumps forward against harness. Fighter continues flying on trim controls, but pilot is dead or unconscious, An aircraft is doomed even if impact has not occurred yet. Just matter of time and gravity. Second kill. 1 minute since dive began. He kicks right rudder hard. Mustang skids left in uncoordinated maneuver. Lines up another FW-190. German pilot sees him this time. Brakes hard right, trying to escape. Jack leads deflection. Fires. 4-second burst. 120 rounds expended. Strikes walk across FW-190 wing route where fuel tank sits. Tank detonates. Orange fireball at 21,000 feet. Pilot does not eject. Either dead already or frozen by shock or incapacitated by explosion. Fighter becomes falling meteor trailing black smoke and orange flame toward German earth below. Third kill. 1 minute 12 seconds since dive began. 3 German fighters destroyed in 72 seconds. 27 remaining. Jack has expended 300 rounds total. 2,172 remaining. Simple mathematics says 7 more attacks like that before ammunition exhausts. But simple mathematics lies about combat. Combat is not simple. Germans will not continue offering easy targets. Every subsequent engagement will be harder because Germans adapt and aggression only surprises once. Experience teaches. Blood teaches faster. But 3 kills in 72 seconds achieve something mathematics cannot measure. Shocked Germans scattered their formation, created confusion and fear and understanding that Americans are here fighting and this will not be unopposed slaughter of helpless bombers. Created doubt in minds of pilots who thought they hunted alone. Made 30 German fighters suddenly cautious when caution is exactly what Jack needs, because cautious fighters do not press attacks on bombers, and every second bombers survive is 1 second closer to safety. Every heartbeat is distance gained toward England. Inside the bomber formation, Staff Sergeant Thomas Baker watches from ball turret underneath B-17 named Liberty Bell. Baker has flown 19 missions from this cramped sphere beneath bomber. Coldest position on aircraft. Loneliest, most vulnerable. Seen P-47 Thunderbolts escort to German border, then turn back when fuel runs low. Seen P-38 Lightning struggle at high altitude where thin air makes engines gasp. Never seen this. One P-51 carving through German fighters like scythe through wheat, destroying 3 aircraft in time it takes to comprehend what is happening. Baker counts in his head like accountant tallying inventory. 3 down, 27 circling. 1 American. Mathematics seem impossible, but reality is visible through his turret glass. Someone is keeping promise that fighters will not turn back. Someone is buying time with bullets and blood and courage. Someone is paying price that Lieutenant David Bennett needed someone to pay 3 months ago when fighters turned back and bombers burned and brothers died alone. Baker keys his intercom. Tells Lieutenant Charles Morgan, the pilot. Morgan does not believe initially. Checks himself through cockpit windows. Confirms what seems impossible. 1 P-51. 30 Germans. Someone fighting alone. 17 hours. 23,000 feet. Hauptmann Franz Muller circles at altitude commanding 18 Bf-109s from Jagdgeschwader 1. Muller is 29 years old. Knight's Cross with oak leaves hangs at throat. 47 kills marked on aircraft fuselage. Small victory marks telling story of survival. Veteran of Russia where he flew against Soviet Yaks and Lavochkins. Veteran of France where he fought British Spitfires and Hurricanes. Survived 3 years when average life expectancy for German fighter pilots measures in months, not years. Survived through skill and caution and understanding that aggressive pilots get kills, but cautious pilots get old, and he is old at 29 in war, where 25 is ancient. He watched American P-51 destroy 3 fighters in 72 seconds. Impressive, dangerous, but not worrying initially because American fighters always operate in groups. Where 1 Mustang appears 8 more lurk in clouds or sun, waiting for Germans to commit fully. Then springing trap. Mueller learned this fighting Americans over France last year. American doctrine emphasizes teamwork, mutual support, fighting as cohesive units, not as individuals. Very different from German rot pairs, but equally effective. But this Mustang operates alone. Mueller watches 5 minutes, waits for trap to spring, waits for other Mustangs to dive from sun, or climb from clouds, or appear from any angle revealing ambush. Nothing happens. Mustang continues attacking. Alone, against 30. Mueller begins doubting his assumptions, begins wondering if American pilot is insane or desperate or heroic or all three simultaneously. 5 of his pilots are down now. 5 aircraft destroyed in smoking wrecks below. 5 men dead or captured or parachuting into captivity. 5 families will receive telegrams written in careful bureaucratic language that tries to soften what cannot be softened. All from one American fighter that refuses to follow any tactical doctrine Mueller learned in 3 years of combat. He counts engagement duration in his head like metronome. 8 minutes. Possible by every standard he knows. One fighter should be overwhelmed in minutes when facing 30. Should be swarmed and destroyed through sheer numbers. Should be caught in crossfire from multiple angles. But this Mustang is faster than his Bf-109s. Climbs better. Extends away after each attack. Building speed, Germans cannot match in pursuit. They cannot coordinate effectively when Mustang refuses to fight predictably. Refuses to follow rules. Mueller realizes truth at 11:22. This American is truly alone. Not bait, not trap, not tactic from manual. Just one pilot fighting 30 because no other option exists, or because courage makes rationality irrelevant, or because duty demands continuation regardless of odds. Mueller has fought Americans and British and Russians for 3 years. Never seen this. Never seen one pilot attacking 30 deliberately without support or hope of support. Never seen someone refusing to accept that mathematics say quit, and quitting is only reasonable response. He tells his pilots via radio. Voice stays calm, but urgency bleeds through professional tone. The American is alone. One aircraft. No support visible. We outnumber him 30-1. But do not underestimate. He has killed 5 already. Fights like demon-possessed. Concentrate attacks. Work together. End this now before more die. But Germans cannot concentrate because Mustang will not cooperate. Attacks then extends away using superior speed. Climbs, then dives. Reverses when he should continue. Continues when he should reverse. Unpredictable. Irrational by every tactical principle Mueller learned. How do you defeat opponent who refuses to fight rationally? How do you trap someone who treats traps as opportunities? How do you kill someone who acts like death is acceptable to follow for achieving objective that matters more than life? Mueller watches Mustang destroy 6th German fighter. Watches pilot bail out. White parachute blossoms against dark winter sky like flower blooming in hell. That pilot will survive as prisoner, but aircraft is lost. Loss rate becomes unsustainable. Started with 30 fighters, now 24. 20% losses in 9 minutes against one opponent. This is unacceptable. This is embarrassing. This teaches lesson Mueller does not want to learn about American determination. This American pilot fights with fury Germans cannot match because Germans fight for survival and advancement and medals while American fights for something else, something deeper. Mueller recognizes it because he felt it once over Stalingrad when his squadron was surrounded and survival seemed impossible, but continuing seemed necessary because abandoning position meant abandoning ground troops below. That feeling where death becomes acceptable because alternative is abandoning what cannot be abandoned without losing peace of soul. Mueller respects this even while trying to kill it, respects warrior spirit that transcends nationalism and ideology, respects understanding that some things matter more than survival, respects courage that is not absence of fear, but continuing despite fear screaming to run. But respect does not prevent killing. War does not pause for admiration. Mueller orders his pilots to press attack harder. Kill the American. End this engagement. Protect factory they were sent to protect. 24 fighters remaining. 1 American. Mathematics still favor Germans. Mueller hopes mathematics proves right. 11:26 hours. 11 minutes into engagement. Jack's right outboard gun stops firing. Frozen from altitude and rapid temperature cycling. Gun operated at 300 degrees Fahrenheit during sustained firing. Now exposed to negative 42-degree ambient temperature at 24,000 feet. Metal contracted too fast. Thermal stress exceeding design limits. Bolt seized mid-cycle. Standard procedure says break off when guns malfunction. Return to base. Live to fight another day. But Jack has 5 working guns and 24 German fighters still threatening bombers he promised to protect. Breaking off is not option. Not when breaking off means abandoning promise made to wife over cooling pot roast in Kansas City kitchen. Not when breaking off means David died for nothing. Not when breaking off means 600 airmen die because one pilot chose safety over duty. He continues fighting with 5 guns. Ammunition counter shows 240 rounds per gun remaining. 1,200 rounds total, at 90 rounds per 3-second burst that gives 13 more attacks. 13 chances to stop 24 fighters. Mathematics worsen instead of improve because engagement duration allows Germans to adapt and learn and coordinate better. They know his patterns now. Know he attacks from above using altitude advantage. Know he targets formation leaders trying to disrupt coordination. Know he extends away using superior speed after each attack. So Germans change tactics. Evolution happening in real time. Survival of smartest. 8 FW-190s split into 2 4-ship formations. One stays high at 25,000 feet as bait. One drops low below bombers at 18,000. Setting up bracket. Classic Luftwaffe tactic. When Jack dives on high formation, low formation, we'll climb into his escape route, box him in, end this through coordination that solo fighting cannot counter. Numbers matter when applied intelligently. Jack sees trap developing, recognizes bracket forming, takes bait anyway. Sometimes you walk into traps because avoiding them means abandoning objectives that matter more than safety. Sometimes duty requires accepting risk that prudence would reject. He dives on high 4 at 60-degree angle. Airspeed builds past 480 miles per hour. Approaching compressibility limit where control becomes difficult. Where airframe protests. Where metal remembers it is just metal. His 4 working wing guns and 2 nose guns pour fire into lead FW-190. Armor-piercing incendiary rounds walk from tail to cockpit like inevitable death march. Fighter rolls inverted. Pilot bails out. White parachute blossoms at 23,000 feet, drifting east on 40-knot winds toward uncertain fate as prisoner. 7th kill. Jack pulls up hard. 7 Gs crushing him. Blood drains. Vision tunnels to pinpoint. Gray edges close. He eases back pressure before consciousness fades completely. Peripheral vision returns just as 4 fighters that were hidden below appear exactly where he expected. Climbing toward him at 3,000 feet per minute. BMW radial engines at full emergency power, burning fuel at unsustainable rate. But rate does not matter when target is right there. Jack rolls inverted, dives directly at them. German element leader sees Mustang diving upside down directly at his formation at 500 miles per hour. This violates every principle of aerial combat he knows. This is insane, suicidal. Diving toward enemy dissipates energy and offers them shot. But German leader brakes left anyway, because insane or not diving P-51 at 500 miles per hour will collide if he holds course and collision kills both, and he prefers living to proving point about tactics. His wingmen follow. Formation scatters like startled birds. Jack rolls upright, lines up trailing FW-190. 3-second burst. 90 rounds expended. Tail section disintegrates under concentrated fire. Control surface is gone. Elevator torn away. Fighter tumbles out of control. Pilot ejects but too low. Parachute opens but does not have enough altitude to decelerate sufficiently before impact with frozen ground below. Mathematics of altitude and time and parachute drag coefficients are unforgiving. 8th kill, but pilot dies despite ejecting. Success that feels like failure. His left inboard gun stops firing. 3 guns remaining, 1,090 rounds after that attack. Temperature and repeated cycling destroy weapons through physics that engineering cannot prevent when operation exceeds design parameters. Sustained firing at extreme altitude creates impossible thermal stresses. Metal expands when hot, contracts when cold. Cycle too rapidly and metal fails. Simple metallurgy made deadly through repetition. Inside Liberty Bell, Thomas Baker counts Jack's attacks like rosary beads. 9 separate engagements in 13 minutes. P-51 has not stopped for breath, has not extended away to reset completely, has not given Germans opportunity to coordinate unopposed attack on bombers. Just continuous aggression, continuous violence, continuous refusal to accept that one fighter cannot stop 30 regardless what mathematics say. Baker watches fuel gauges out of habit born from 19 missions. Liberty Bell is 90 minutes from English coast at current speed. P-47 Thunderbolts should arrive as relief escort in 40 minutes. If lone P-51 can hold for 40 more minutes, bombers will survive. All 60, all 600 airmen. If P-51 is destroyed or driven off, bombers will die in minutes because 22 German fighters can destroy 60 bombers quickly when unopposed. Mathematics favor attackers overwhelmingly. Baker and 599 other airmen owe their lives to pilot they cannot see clearly, cannot identify, may never meet. But who keeps promise that matters more to him than survival matters to normal people? Who redefines what normal means? Who shows what courage looks like when courage is applied without reservation? Lieutenant Charles Morgan keys his radio, asks for Mustang's call sign, wants to thank pilot, wants to know who is saving them so he can tell his grandchildren someday if he lives to have grandchildren. No response comes. Mustang is too busy fighting, too busy keeping promise, too busy rewriting what one pilot can accomplish when that pilot refuses to quit. 11:33 hours, 19 minutes into engagement. Jack's ammunition counter hits 100 rounds per gun. 400 rounds total across 3 working guns. At current rate of fire, that gives 4 to 5 more attacks maximum. Then Winchester, out of ammunition. Defenseless. Germans still have 22 fighters operational. Mathematics say he cannot destroy 22 fighters with 400 rounds. Can only delay. Buy time. Hold until P-47 relief arrives in 23 minutes. 23 minutes might as well be 23 hours when every second stretches into eternity under stress. 22 German fighters form up tighter this time. Learning, adapting, wrought pairs within swarm elements within larger group. They will not scatter anymore, will maintain cohesion, will use mutual support to counter his individual attacks. Coordination defeats solo tactics when coordination is applied correctly by pilots who learned lessons at cost of 8 comrades dead. They pay tuition. Now applying what tuition purchased. They dive at bombers in 3 waves. First wave, 8 fighters targeting lead squadron. Second wave, 7 fighters going for high squadron. Third wave, 7 fighters positioned to catch stragglers. Textbook Luftwaffe doctrine perfected over 4 years of war. Overwhelming force. Multiple attack axes. Works every time against outnumbered opposition when executed properly. Opposition is 1 P-51 with 400 rounds and 3 working guns and pilot who will not quit, will not surrender, will not accept that mathematics determine outcomes when will can override mathematics through sheer bloody-minded determination. Jack hits first wave head-on at 11:34, picks leftmost FW-190, fires 1-second burst, 30 rounds. Tracers converge like meeting rivers. FW-190 engine cowling shatters. Pieces fly backward, hitting cockpit canopy. Fighter rolls away, trailing black smoke from punctured oil lines that spell doom within minutes. 9th kill, 370 rounds remaining. He pulls up vertical, using accumulated speed to climb above second wave. They are committed to attack run-on bombers, cannot follow him up without abandoning attack. He hammerheads at top of climb, stalls, falls backward, kicks rudder, spins 180 degrees, dives back down onto their tails, lines up trailing BF-109, 1-second burst, 30 rounds, tail shears off completely. Fighter tumbles like falling leaf. 10th kill, 340 rounds remaining. His right inboard gun seizes. 2 guns remaining. 310 rounds total. Third wave climbs toward him. 7 fighters, all firing. Tracers fill sky like deadly fireworks. Jack is out of airspeed and altitude advantage. Sits below them now. They have sun. They have numbers. They have working guns. Standard tactics say run, build speed, extend away, reset on better terms, live to fight again. But running means Germans attack bombers unopposed for 20 minutes until thunderbolts arrive. Running means bombers die. Running means promise broken. Running means looking at Helen and admitting he turned back like fighters turned back when David needed them to stay. He turns into 7 fighters, climbs straight at them with guns blazing down at him from above. This is suicidal. Head-on attack against 7 opponents when he has 2 guns and they have 14 plus cannons. But running means bombers die, and that is unacceptable cost. Lead BF-109 and Jack both fire at 400 yards. Closing speed exceeds 700 miles per hour. Both pilots should brake at 100 yards. Fighter pilot training that says brake before collision becomes inevitable. Neither brakes. At 50 yards, BF-109 propeller explodes from Jack's gunfire. Pieces shred through its own engine cowling. Fighter snap rolls left violently. Pilot does not eject. Dead at controls or unconscious or trapped. 11th kill. Jack flashes through formation. 6 fighters behind him now, all firing. Tracers pass above canopy, below wings, around him like cage made of light and death. 1 round punches through left horizontal stabilizer. Clean hole. Another clips right aileron trailing edge. P-51 shudders. Control feels mushy. Damage affects handling. Aircraft wounded but flying, like pilot wounded but fighting. He shoves stick forward, dives for cloud deck at 15,000 feet. Germans follow close. Inside clouds, Jack pulls throttle back. Rolls inverted. Waits 10 seconds counting heartbeats. Rolls upright. Pulls up hard. Breaks back above clouds behind pursuing Germans. They overshot. Classical maneuver executed perfectly. He sits on their tails now. Predator become predator again. He picks last fighter in string, FW-190. 2-second burst. 60 rounds. Canopy blows off. Pilot slumps forward against harness. Fighter enters spin. 12th kill. His left wing gun seizes. 1 gun remaining. 190 rounds. Formation scatters again. Jack climbs back to 24,000 feet. Fuel gauge shows 58 gallons. Warning light amber. P-47s are 23 minutes out. Bombers are 16 minutes from safety. He can see thunderbolts in distance. Black dots coming from west like cavalry in old Western films. Relief force approaching. But still 12 minutes away, and 12 minutes is eternity when fighting on fumes in single gun. Germans regroup. 19 fighters left. All focused on him now. They stop trying to reach bombers. They want to kill him. All 19 concentrating on one damaged Mustang that refuses to die. That refuses to quit. That keeps fighting past any reasonable point. 1 gun, 190 rounds, 58 gallons fuel, 12 minutes until relief. At 11:37, final gun stops firing. Ammunition counter shows 180 rounds remaining. But gun is frozen, bolt seized, will not fire even though ammunition remains in feed chute. He is Winchester effectively. Defenseless. 19 German fighters closing on crippled Mustang with 0 working weapons. This is where mathematics say story ends. Where doctrine says bail out. Where common sense says you tried and failed honorably and nobody can ask more. Where pride says you fought well and living beats dying for nothing. But Jack Harrison made promise. To Helen, to David, to 600 airmen who trusted someone would protect them. Mathematics do not determine whether promises are kept. Will determines that. Courage determines that. Character determines that. 19 German fighters form line abreast, all coming straight at him. No fancy tactics anymore, just mass and firepower. They will create wall of lead half-mile wide. No evasion possible, no escape route. Just fly through or die trying. Jack checks everything one final time. No ammunition, no working guns, fuel critically low, oxygen pressure dropping, hands numb from sustained cold, vision narrowing from hypoxia and exhaustion. Body approaching limits, mind clear despite body failing. 19 fighters, 1 defenseless P-51, 11 minutes until relief arrives. Mathematics say this is end, promise says this is not finished. Promise matters more than mathematics. Promise always mattered more. Jack turns toward 19 fighters. No guns, no ammunition, just fury and promise, an absolute refusal to accept that impossible means permanent, or that mathematics override will, or that giving up is option when others depend on continuation. Brings them home. Whatever it takes. However long it takes. Whatever it costs. The silver Mustang flies toward impossible odds. Weaponless, but not powerless. Ammunition exhausted, but will intact. Mathematically defeated, but spiritually unbroken. 11 minutes until relief. 11 minutes of flying without guns. 11 minutes of pure courage as only weapon. The Germans close distance. Jack prepares to use the only weapon remaining. Fear. Psychology. Will made visible through refusal to surrender. Sometimes courage is all the ammunition you need. Sometimes will defeats weapons. Sometimes one is enough when one refuses to accept that one is insufficient. The engagement continues. The promise continues. The fight continues. Because Jack Harrison does not know how to quit. Because promises matter more than survival. Because bringing them home is what honor demands. Whatever comes next, he faces it without weapons, but not without purpose. Without ammunition, but not without resolve. Without hope of survival, but not without certainty that some things matter more than living. The silver Mustang flies on, defenseless, determined, unstoppable in ways that transcend weapons or odds or mathematics. 11 minutes remaining, 19 Germans attacking, 0 ammunition, infinite courage. The mathematics lie, the promise endures. The fight continues. 11:39 hours, 21 minutes into engagement, 0 ammunition remaining. Jack fires his empty guns at 19 German fighters approaching in line abreast. No rounds exit barrels. Just residual powder in chambers creating muzzle flash that looks convincing from 400 yards. Germans cannot tell from that distance whether guns are firing or empty. They see flash, see Mustang holding course, assume guns work. Psychology matters more than physics when psychology creates doubt and doubt creates hesitation. The formation splits. 19 fighters scatter around empty space where they think rounds are passing. Empty threat creating real response. Fear manufactured from nothing except will and audacity. Jack dives through gap they created. Pulls up other side. Climbs back to altitude. Germans reform behind him. 18 now. One turn back. Maybe low on fuel. Maybe damaged from earlier engagement. Maybe intimidated by Mustang that keeps attacking after 30 minutes. Maybe finally understanding that this American will not quit regardless of ammunition state. 18 fighters close again. Jack turns into them. Fires empty guns. They break earlier this time, splitting at 600 yards instead of 400. Uncertainty affecting decisions in real time. One fighter does not break fast enough. Too slow to recognize threat is illusion. Jack closes to 50 feet behind BF 109. German pilot looks back over shoulder. Sees Mustang propeller inches from his tail. Sees what he thinks are muzzle flashes. Sees death approaching, whether death is real or imagined. He breaks hard left. Nearly stalls from violent maneuver. Recovers. Dives for deck. Gives up. Runs away from fighter with no ammunition. Because fear is more powerful than knowledge when fear takes control of judgment. When psychology overrides training. When will defeats weapons through pure intimidation. Jack climbs back up to 23,000 feet. 17 fighters remain. They know now. Must know his gun stopped firing. Must understand he is bluffing. Know this should be easy kill. But psychology matters more than tactics when psychology creates doubt in minds of experienced pilots who have seen too many comrades die today. 17 kills from one American. Maybe 18 if you count the one who fled. Numbers that should be impossible. Numbers that make remaining pilots cautious. 11:41 hours. Franz Muller watches this performance and understands something profound. The American is out of ammunition, continues attacking anyway. Uses fear instead of bullets. Uses intimidation instead of guns. Uses will instead of weapons. Muller has fought 3 years across 3 fronts. Never seen this. Never seen pilot continue fighting after Winchester. Never seen courage become weapon when weapons are exhausted. Never seen psychology wielded this effectively by someone who has every reason to run and no reason to stay, except that staying matters more than the surviving. Micheller tells his pilots what they already know, but need hearing from commander. He has no ammunition. We can kill him easily now. But look at bombers. They are 8 minutes from P-47 range. If we kill this American now, we have maybe 4 minutes to attack bombers before Thunderbolts arrive. 4 minutes for 17 fighters to damage 60 bombers means facing concentrated defensive fire from 650 caliber machine guns. Not worth losses we will take. Mathematical calculation becomes clear. This American won, not through weapons, through time. He bought time with courage and stubbornness and absolute refusal to quit. That is victory even though he did not destroy us all. He prevented us from destroying them. That is enough. More than enough. That is a lesson worth remembering. Mueller orders withdrawal. 17 German fighters turn east. Head back toward Brunswick and home bases. Combat ends at 11:44 hours, 30 minutes after it began. Longest 30 minutes of Jack Harrison's life. Longest 30 minutes in aviation history, perhaps. 30 minutes that will be studied and analyzed and debated and taught for generations. Jack watches them go, exhausted beyond description. Hands shake on stick from cold and stress and sustained high-G maneuvering. Not from fear. Fear is luxury you experience after danger passes. During danger, there is no time for fear. Only action, only continuation, only doing what must be done. Now that danger recedes, body demands payment for what was borrowed. Shaking is that payment. Small price compared to what could have been paid. His engine coughs once. Fuel pressure drops momentarily. He adjusts mixture carefully, leans it out to maximum efficiency. Engine smooths, runs steady. Fuel gauge reads 11 gallons. Warning light glowing steady red. Math says this is not enough. 90 minutes to English coast at careful cruise power. 11 gallons at careful consumption rate gives maybe 95 minutes if everything goes perfectly and nothing goes wrong, and luck favors the brave just this once more. He turns west, follows bombers. P-47 Thunderbolts form up around B-17s like protective envelope. One Thunderbolt pilot pulls alongside Jack, close enough to see damage. See bullet holes? See shot away pieces. Gives thumbs up. Recognition between warriors. Jack nods, too tired to return gesture properly. Too exhausted to do anything except fly straight and level and breathe and understand that promise was kept. David's death mattered. Helen's letter was answered. 60 bombers heading home. 600 airmen alive. 0 losses today. All because one pilot refused to turn back, when turning back was rational, and staying was insane, and insanity became courage through commitment to promise that mattered more than anything. 33 minutes of combat ends. Engagement complete. Promise kept. Whatever happens next. 12:23 hours. English coast appears through broken clouds. White cliffs materialize like salvation made solid. Jack's fuel gauge reads 11 gallons when those cliffs become visible. 99 minutes since combat ended. Engine ran at careful cruise power through luck and precise fuel management and prayers unspoken but felt. Understanding that sometimes impossible becomes possible when alternative is unacceptable. RAF Boxted Airfield sits 12 miles inland. Tower gives him priority landing. Emergency declared based on fuel state and combat damage. Other aircraft hold in pattern, giving damaged Mustang first approach. Professional courtesy between pilots who understand. Jack lines up final, landing gear down. 3 green lights confirming hydraulics still work despite damage. Flaps down, airspeed 120 knots. Over threshold. Throttle back, stick back gently. Main wheels kiss concrete. Tail wheel settles. He rolls down runway. Engine coughs twice. Fuel starvation beginning. Tanks reading empty. But momentum carries aircraft. He turns off runway onto taxiway. Engine dies completely. Propeller windmills to stop. Silence except wind and his own breathing ragged through oxygen mask still connected. Ground crew sprints to aircraft. They heard radio chatter. Something about lone Mustang over Germany. Something impossible. Something worth running across frozen tarmac to witness. Technical Sergeant Henry Walsh reaches aircraft first. Opens canopy. Cold air rushes in. Sir, you okay? How many Jack sits motionless for 10 seconds? Hands will not release stick. Fingers cramped from 3 hours gripping controls tightly enough to leave marks. He forces them open. Unplugs oxygen mask. Face shows red pressure marks where rubber pressed against flesh. Unplugs radio cord. Releases harness. Tries to stand. Legs nearly buckle. 3 hours, 37 minutes in cockpit. 90 minutes continuous combat. Sustained high-G maneuvering. Body demands payment now that survival is certain. Walsh helps him down from wing. Jack walks around aircraft with crew chief counting damage. Walsh examines each hole carefully like doctor examining patient. One round through left horizontal stabilizer. Another through right aileron. 37 bullet holes total in aluminum skin. Most are small caliber machine gun rounds from long range. 3 are 20 mm cannon strikes that punched through but missed vital systems by inches. One cannon round went through wing root, missed fuel tank by 6 inches. 6 inches between survival and fireball. Walsh looks at Jack with new understanding written across face. How many confirmed, sir? Maybe 3, maybe 4. Hard to tell in fight. Walsh knows pilots undercount, knows modesty is common among those who do impossible things. But he does not argue, just appreciates that his pilot came back when so many do not. Just grateful that aircraft can be repaired when so many cannot be salvaged. Dinathorpe, 1337 hours. 401st Bomb Group landed 60 B-17s. Every aircraft returns, 0 losses. Statistical anomaly in war, where missions over Germany average 9% losses, sometimes higher. Today, 0. Difference was one P-51 fighting for 30 minutes after all other escorts departed or scattered. Lieutenant Charles Morgan climbs out of Liberty Bell. Ball turret gunner Thomas Baker finds intelligence officer immediately. Tells him about Lone Mustang. 30-plus minutes combat. One fighter defending 60 bombers. Intelligence officer is skeptical initially. Combat stress causes exaggeration sometimes. But he checks with other crews. Same story repeats from 18 different bomber crews. One P-51, call sign unknown, pilot unknown, fighting alone over half hour, saved entire formation. 8th Air Force launches investigation, checks mission logs carefully, cross-references times and positions in radio calls. Only one P-51 from 354th Fighter Group remained with bombers that long. Aircraft number 436315. Pilot Major Jack Harrison. Flight records confirm he landed with 11 gallons fuel. Gun camera footage shows 12 confirmed kills. Multiple witnesses from bomber crews confirmed defensive actions that saved formation from concentrated German attack that should have been devastating. January 13th, 2 days after mission. Lieutenant General Ira Eaker, commander of 8th Air Force, visits RAF Boxted personally. He interviews Jack in operations building. Small room, table, 3 chairs, coffee brewing in corner, cigarette smoke hanging in still air. Eaker asks Jack to describe engagement. Jack is reluctant, uncomfortable with attention. Just did my job, sir. Bombers needed protecting. Protected them best I could. Eaker presses for details. Notebook sits open on table. Pen ready. 30 minutes of combat. 12 kills confirmed. Ran out of ammunition but kept attacking. Explain how you continued without ammunition, Major. Jack shrugged slightly. Germans did not know guns were empty. Flew at them like guns worked. Most broke off. Bought time until thunderbolts arrived. Simple as that, really. Eaker writes carefully. Pen scratches across paper. You understand what you did was extraordinary. 1 aircraft against 30. Most pilots would have turned back. Doctrine says, wait for support when outnumbered. Jack looks at Eaker directly. Eyes show exhaustion, but something else beneath. Something harder than exhaustion. Something forged in combat. Doctrine did not write my wife's letter about her brother dying because fighters turned back at border. Doctrine does not explain to 600 airmen why you abandoned them when they needed you. Doctrine is words on paper. Bombers are people. People matter more than words ever will. Eaker nods slowly, understands now what drives this pilot, why some men do impossible things. He closes notebook. I am recommending you for Medal of Honor. Your actions saved 600 lives, demonstrated courage beyond any measure. You deserve the nation's highest recognition. Jack says nothing for a moment, then quietly. 12 Germans died. Their families received telegrams too. Not sure that deserves medals. Eaker stands preparing to leave. War requires killing, Major. You killed to save. That is the difference. That is what medals recognize. Not the killing, the saving. The recommendation moves fast. Usually Medal of Honor approvals take months. Committees review carefully. Witnesses testify. Evidence accumulates. Jack's recommendation takes 6 weeks. Witnesses are clear. Evidence overwhelming. Outcome inevitable. March 6, 1944. RAF Boxted. 54 days after mission. Entire 354th Fighter Group assembles on flight line. 500 men in formation. Dress uniforms despite cold March wind. Brigadier General Jesse Otan arrives from 8th Air Force Headquarters bringing medal in wooden presentation case. Ribbon is light blue silk with 13 white stars representing original colonies. Medal itself shows Minerva holding shield and sword. America's highest military decoration. Reserved for valor above and beyond call of duty. For actions where death is probable and duty undeniable. Auden Reed's citation. Voice carries across silent formation. For conspicuous gallantry and intrepidity above and beyond call of duty in action with enemy near Oschersleben, Germany on the 11th January 1944. Major Jack Harrison single-handedly defended formation of heavy bombers against attack by 30 enemy fighters. He destroyed 12 enemy aircraft and drove off remainder through aggressive action despite being heavily outnumbered. After exhausting ammunition, he continued attacking using superior flying skill and intimidation to prevent enemy from reaching bombers under his protection. His heroic actions directly saved lives of 600 American airmen. His gallantry reflects highest credit upon himself and United States Army Air Forces. Auton places medal around Jack's neck. Jack salutes. They shake hands. Photographers capture moment. Flash bulbs pop. This image will appear in newspapers across America. Kansas City boy receives Medal of Honor. Proof that ordinary Americans do extraordinary things. After ceremony, bomber crews visit from Dinathorpe. Traveled specifically for this. Thomas Baker shakes Jack's hand, holds it firmly. Sir, I watched entire fight from ball turret. Counted every engagement. Never seen anything like it. I wrote my wife, told her I owe my life to man in silver Mustang. We had a son 2 weeks ago. Named him James after you. Wanted you to know that. Jack does not know what to say. Does not feel heroic. Feels tired and grateful Baker survived. Congratulations on your son. Hope war ends before he grows up needing to fight in next one. Lieutenant Charles Morgan thanks him. Entire crew thanks him. They understand statistically they should be dead. Understand that promise kept by one pilot meant difference between going home and never going home. The mission changed fighter doctrine permanently. Before January 11th, fighters stayed close to bombers. Defensive escort. Protecting through presence. After Jack's mission, fighters are authorized to pursue attackers aggressively. Hunt enemy. Clear sky. Doctrine shifts from protection to domination. From passive defense to active offense. From escorts to hunters. Within 3 months, 14 of 15 8th Air Force fighter groups convert to P-51 Mustangs. Pioneer Mustangs proved concept. Other groups follow. By December 1944, Mustangs escort bombers to Berlin and back. 700-mile radius. Luftwaffe cannot hide. Bomber losses drop from 9% to less than 2%. Strategic bombing succeeds because fighters like P-51 exist and pilots like Jack prove they work. Jack flies 26 more combat missions. Shoots down 6 more aircraft. Total kills 17. But he is never alone again. Fighter command changes procedures. No more solo operations. Flights stay together. Mutual support mandatory. Jack agrees completely. What he did on January 11th was necessary but not repeatable. Lightning does not strike same place twice by choice. June 1965, Paris, France. Le Bourget Airport, International Air Show. Franz Muller attends as Lufthansa delegation representative. 50 years old now. Captain on Boeing 707 transatlantic routes. 20 years since war ended. Germany rebuilt. Democracy established. NATO member. Allied with America against Soviet Union. Former enemies become current partners. Franz walks exhibition halls. Sees display titled American Fighter Aces of World War II. Photographs and citations. Major Jack Harrison featured prominently. Medal of Honor. Only fighter pilot European theater to receive highest decoration during war. Photograph shows Harrison standing beside P-51 Mustang. Aircraft number 436315. Franz recognizes those markings instantly. The Mustang. The pilot. January 11th, 1944. The engagement that taught lessons Franz has carried 21 years. He asks exhibition staff simple question. Is General Harrison attending show? Brigadier General Harrison, retired, sir. Attending as United States Air Force delegation. Expected this afternoon. Franz waits 3 hours. Finally, Harrison arrives, older now, 54. Gray hair, still lean, still carrying himself like fighter pilot. Some things age changes. Some things age cannot touch. Franz approaches during reception, nervous but determined. General Harrison. I am Franz Muller, former Hauptmann Jagdgeschwader, 1st of January 11, 1944. I commanded German fighters you fought near Oschersleben. I wanted to meet man who defeated 18 of my pilots alone. To shake your hand. To tell you that day taught me what American courage means. Jack studies Franz carefully. Sees former enemy. Sees current colleague. Sees airline captain who once tried to kill him. Extends hand. Hauptmann Muller. I remember your formation. Disciplined. Professional. You could have killed me many times. Why did you not? We tried, General. For 30 minutes we tried. But you did not fight like rational pilot. Fought like man possessed. No ammunition, but still attacking. We broke because minds could not accept what I saw. One pilot should not defeat 30, but you did. Not through weapons, through will that refused to quit. That is lesson I carry 21 years. That is why I wanted to meet you. They talked 2 hours about tactics, about fear, about duty, about understanding that warriors respect warriors regardless of flags. Franz explains post-war life. After war, I became airline captain. Lufthansa, fly 707s now. Very different from BF 109. But sometimes at 30,000 feet, I remember January 11th. Remember seeing your Mustang attacking though guns silent. That taught me to land 707 with 2 engines failed over Atlantic in 1962. Saved 146 passengers. Because you taught me impossible means only difficult. Jack responds quietly. You saved 146 lives using lessons learned trying to kill me. Strange circle. War teaches skills that peace uses. They toast with French wine. To promises kept. To enemies who become friends. To understanding that warriors respect warriors. Franz asked a question that troubled him 21 years. Do you regret killing my pilots? Jack answers honestly. Every day. 12 men died because I pulled trigger. War made it necessary, but necessity does not erase responsibility. I accept their deaths allowed 600 Americans to live, but acceptance does not prevent regret. I killed because situation demanded, not because I wanted. That distinction matters. Franz nods. Your honesty honors their memory. You are a good man, Jack Harrison. Glad you survived. Glad we meet as friends. They exchange addresses, promise correspondence. 2 men who were enemies, who tried to kill each other, who now share understanding that humanity transcends nationalism. 2024. National Museum, United States Air Force. Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, Ohio. P-51 Mustang sits in climate-controlled gallery. Silver medal restored perfectly. Number 4363115 on tail. Jack Harrison's aircraft. Every rivet accurate. Everything exactly as it appeared January 11th, 1944. Placard reads carefully. P-51B Mustang flown by Brigadier General Jack Harrison Medal of Honor recipient. On January 11th, 1944, General Harrison single-handedly defended 60 B-17 bombers against 30 German fighters. He destroyed 12 enemy aircraft and prevented all others from attacking bombers after ammunition exhausted. His actions saved 600 American lives. First P-51 pilot to receive Medal of Honor. His example inspired changes to fighter doctrine. Visitors photograph Mustang. Read placard. Most do not fully understand. Just old airplane from old war. But veterans know. Fighter pilots know. This aircraft represents a moment when one person decided promises matter more than survival. Jack Harrison died 1990, age 84. Helen died 2009, age 96. They had 55 years together after war. 2 children, 7 grandchildren, 3 great-grandchildren. Normal American family, except for beginning. Thomas Baker lived to 92. Named son James Thomas Baker as promised. Grandson serves Air Force today. F-35 pilot. Legacy continues. Jack Jr. retired Air Force colonel. Flew F-4 Phantoms Vietnam. Emma married Navy aviator. Modern wars. Different enemies. Same fundamental principle that service matters. Franz Muller died, 1998, age 83. Lufthansa captain retired with honors. 2 daughters, 5 grandchildren. Children. Normal German family rebuilt from ashes. Franz and Jack corresponded until Franz's death. Christmas cards every year. Friendship built on mutual respect. Final legacy is understanding transmitted across generations. That promises matter. That courage is continuing despite fear. That one person makes difference when that person refuses to quit. Jack Harrison's last words to grandson entering Air Force Academy, 1993, are preserved. Fly like angels depend on you. Fight like demons fear you. Protect like promises matter more than life. That is what service means. Promise me you will come home. Promise me you will bring others home. The grandson kept promise. Retired Major, F-22 pilot, now instructor, teaching next generation. The silver Mustang sits silent in museum, representing moment when impossible became possible, when one became sufficient against 30, when promises kept through bloodshed still counted because bringing them home mattered most. 1 against 30, 37 minutes, 0 ammunition, 12 kills, 600 saved, promise kept. That is Jack Harrison. That is American courage. That is what promises mean when promises cost everything and everything proves worthwhile. Kansas City, city boy who grew up 3 blocks from airport, who learned to fly at 14, who made promise at 33, who kept that promise at 24,000 feet when keeping it seemed impossible. That is warrior story. That is human story when humans choose courage over calculation and will over weapons and promises over survival. The silver Mustang waits in museum. Silent witness today while one pilot proved everything is possible when someone refuses to accept anything is impossible. Forever remembered, forever honored, forever teaching that courage is continuing when continuation seems impossible. That promises are worth everything. That one person makes all the difference. Major Jack Harrison, the lone Mustang over Germany. January 11th, 1944. The day impossible became difficult, and difficult became done, and done became eternal. That is how promises are kept. That is how legends are born. That is how one becomes enough when one refuses to accept that one is insufficient. The story ends where it began, with understanding that some things matter more than survival, that some promises cost everything, that everything is acceptable price when alternative is abandoning what cannot be abandoned. Jack Harrison knew this, proved this, lived this, taught this. The lesson remains. The promise continues. The legacy endures. 1 against 30, courage against calculation, promise against probability. Promise won, courage triumphed, legacy eternal. That is story of lone Mustang. That is story of American courage. That is story of promises kept when keeping them costs everything and everything proves worthwhile because bringing them home matters most. Always, forever, without end. 11:39 hours, 21 minutes into engagement. 0 ammunition remaining. Jack fires his empty guns at 19 German fighters approaching in line abreast. No rounds exit barrels. Just residual powder in chambers creating muzzle flash that looks convincing from 400 yards. Germans cannot tell from that distance whether guns are firing or empty. They see flash, see Mustang holding course, assume guns work. Psychology matters more than physics when psychology creates doubt and doubt creates hesitation. The formation splits. 19 fighters scatter around empty space where they think rounds are passing. Empty threat creating real response. Fear manufactured from nothing except will and audacity. Jack dives through gap they created, pulls up other side, climbs back to altitude. Germans reform behind him. 18 now, 1 turn back. Maybe low on fuel, maybe damaged from earlier engagement, maybe intimidated by Mustang that keeps attacking after 30 minutes. 18 fighters close again. Jack turns into them, fires empty guns. They break earlier this time, splitting at 600 yards instead of 400. Uncertainty affecting decisions in real time. One fighter does not break fast enough. Too slow to recognize threat is illusion. Jack closes to 50 feet behind BF-109. German pilot looks back over shoulder, sees Mustang propeller inches from his tail, sees what he thinks are muzzle flashes, sees death approaching, whether death is real or imagined. He brakes hard left, nearly stalls from violent maneuver, recovers, dives for deck, gives up, runs away from fighter with no ammunition because fear is more powerful than knowledge when fear takes control of judgment. Jack climbs back up to 23,000 feet. 17 fighters remain. They know now. Must know his gun stopped firing. Must understand he is bluffing. Know this should be easy kill. But psychology matters more than tactics when psychology creates doubt in minds of experienced pilots who have seen too many comrades die today. 11:41 hours. Franz Muller watches this performance and understands something profound. The American is out of ammunition, continues attacking anyway, uses fear instead of bullets, uses intimidation instead of guns, uses will instead of weapons. Mueller has fought 3 years across 3 fronts. Never seen this. Never seen pilot continue fighting after Winchester. Never seen courage become weapon when weapons are exhausted. Mueller tells his pilots what they already know but need hearing from commander. He has no ammunition. We can kill him easily now. But look at bombers. They are 8 minutes from P-47 range. If we kill this American now, we have maybe 4 minutes to attack bombers before Thunderbolts arrive. 4 minutes for 17 fighters to damage 60 bombers means facing concentrated defensive fire from 650 caliber machine guns. Not worth losses we will take. This American won, not through weapons, through time. He bought time with courage and stubbornness and absolute refusal to quit. That is victory, even though he did not destroy us all. He prevented us from destroying them. That is enough. Mueller orders withdrawal. 17 German fighters turn east. Head back toward Brunswick and home bases. Combat ends at 11:44 hours, 30 minutes after it began. Longest 30 minutes of Jack Harrison's life. 30 minutes that will be studied and analyzed and taught for generations. Jack watches them go, exhausted beyond description. Hands shake on stick from cold and stress and sustained high-G maneuvering. Not from fear. Fear is luxury you experience after danger passes. During danger, there is no time for fear. Only action. Only continuation. Now that danger recedes, body demands payment. Shaking is that payment. Small price. His engine coughs once. Fuel pressure drops momentarily. He adjusts mixture carefully, leans it out to maximum efficiency. Engine smooths, runs steady. Fuel gauge reads 11 gallons. Warning light glowing steady red. Math says this is not enough. 90 minutes to English coast. 11 gallons gives maybe 95 minutes if everything goes perfectly. He turns west, follows bombers. P-47 Thunderbolts form up around B-17s like protective envelope. One Thunderbolt pilot pulls alongside Jack, close enough to see damage, see bullet holes, see shot away pieces, gives thumbs up. Recognition between warriors. Jack nods, too tired to return gesture properly, too exhausted to do anything except fly straight and level and breathe. David's death mattered. Helen's letter was answered. 60 bombers heading home, 600 airmen alive, 0 losses today. All because one pilot refused to turn back. 12:23 hours. English coast appears through broken clouds. White cliffs materialize like salvation made solid. Most beautiful sight Jack has ever seen. More beautiful than Helen on wedding day. More beautiful than Jack Jr.'s birth. More beautiful than anything because those cliffs mean survival after hours when survival seemed mathematical impossibility. His fuel gauge reads 11 gallons when those cliffs become visible. 99 minutes since combat ended. Engine ran at careful cruise power through luck and precise fuel management and something else. Something that feels like providence, but Jack is not religious enough to call it that. RAF Boxted Airfield sits 12 miles inland. Tower gives him priority landing. Emergency declared based on fuel state and combat damage. Other aircraft hold in pattern. Giving damaged Mustang first approach. Professional courtesy between pilots who understand what fuel exhaustion means. What combat damage means. What coming home on fumes means. Jack lines up final approach. Hands steady now on stick despite exhaustion. Muscle memory taking over when conscious thought becomes difficult. Landing gear down. He waits for 3 green lights, left main, right main, tail wheel. All 3 illuminate. Hydraulics still work despite damage. Small miracle. Flaps down, more hydraulics working. Another miracle. Airspeed 120 knots, over threshold. Throttle back gently, stick back carefully. Main wheels kiss concrete with sound like prayer answered. Tail wheel settles. He rolls down runway. The longest runway he has ever seen. The most beautiful runway. Engine coughs twice. Fuel starvation beginning. Fuel pumps sucking air instead of gasoline. But momentum carries aircraft forward. Keeps wheels turning. He turns off runway onto taxiway. Engine dies completely. Just stops. Propeller windmills to stop. Silence except wind and his own breathing, ragged through oxygen masks still connected. Silence that sounds like music. Silence that means survival. Silence that means promise kept and home reached and life continuing when life seemed finished. 30 minutes ago, he sits in cockpit for a long moment. Cannot move, cannot process, cannot do anything except sit and breathe and understand that he is alive when alive seemed impossible. That bombers are safe when safety seemed impossible. That promise is kept when keeping it seemed to require dying. Ground crew sprints to aircraft. They heard radio chatter during flight back. Something about lone Mustang over Germany. Something impossible. Something that needs witnessing. Technical Sergeant Henry Walsh reaches aircraft first. Opens canopy. Cold January air rushes in, fresh and clean and smelling of England, of safety, of home. Sir, you okay? How many you get? Jack sits motionless for 10 seconds. Hands will not release stick. Fingers cramped from 3 hours gripping controls. 3 hours of sustained tension. 3 hours of flying and fighting and refusing to quit. He forces fingers open. They protest. Unplugs oxygen mask with hands that shake. Face shows red pressure marks where rubber pressed against flesh for 3 hours. Unplugs radio cord. Releases harness. Tries to stand. Legs nearly buckle. 3 hours, 37 minutes in cockpit. 90 minutes continuous combat. Body demands payment now. Walsh helps him down from wing. Strong hands supporting. Ground crew gathering around. Looking at aircraft with new understanding. Looking at pilot with something like awe mixed with concern. Mixed. Jack walks around aircraft with the crew chief. Needs to see damage. Needs to understand how close he came to not coming back. Walsh examines each hole carefully. Counts them like accountant tallying debts. 1 round through left horizontal stabilizer. Clean hole. Missed flight control cables by inches. Another through right aileron. Tore through aluminum, but missed control surfaces. 37 bullet holes total in aluminum skin. Most are small caliber machine gun rounds from long range. Minimal damage individually. Collectively, they tell story of aircraft that should not have survived. 3 or 20 millimeter cannon strikes that punched through but missed vital systems by luck or providence or both. 1 cannon round went through wing root. Missed fuel tank by 6 inches. 6 inches between survival and fireball. Walsh looks at Jack with new understanding. Voice quiet. How many confirmed, sir? Maybe 3, maybe 4. Hard to tell in fight. Walsh knows pilots undercount. Knows modesty is common among those who do impossible things. Knows gun camera will show more. But he does not argue. Just appreciates his pilot came back. Just grateful aircraft can be repaired. Sir, you need to get to debrief. Intelligence wants to talk to you. Something about what you did out there. Dina Thorpe, 13 to 37 hours. 401st Bomb Group lands 60 B-17s. Every aircraft returns. Crew chiefs count them as they land. 60 taking off. 60 returning. 0 losses. Statistical anomaly in War I, where missions over Germany averaged 9% losses. Sometimes higher after extended penetration into Reich territory. To date, 0. The difference was 1 P-51 fighting for 30 minutes after all other escorts departed or scattered. Lieutenant Charles Morgan climbs out of Liberty Bell. Legs unsteady, not from fear, from relief so profound it makes muscles weak. 19 missions completed. This one should have been last. Should have been the mission where statistics caught up, where mathematics asserted dominance, where German fighters overwhelmed defensive firepower and turned bombers into falling pyres. Ball turret gunner Thomas Baker climbs out last. Always last because Ball's turret requires crawling up through cramped space. He finds intelligence officer immediately. Captain Reynolds. Clipboard. Pencil. Professional demeanor masking curiosity. Baker tells him about lone Mustang. Words tumbling out. 30-plus minutes combat. One fighter defending 60 bombers against 30 Germans, single-handedly preventing massacre. Reynolds is skeptical initially. Combat stress causes exaggeration. Adrenaline distorts perception. Memory plays tricks, but he checks with other crews. Same story repeats from 18 different bomber crews. Different men, different aircraft, same account. One P-51. Call sign unknown. Pilot unknown. Fighting alone over half hour. Saved entire formation through impossible actions. Reynolds realizes something extraordinary happened. Contacts 8th Air Force Headquarters. Initiates investigation. Checks mission logs carefully. Cross-references times and positions in radio calls. Triangulates accounts. Only one P-51 from 354th Fighter Group remained with bombers that long. Aircraft number 436315. Pilot Major Jack Harrison. Flight records confirm he landed with 11 gallons fuel. Gun camera footage being developed. Multiple witnesses from bomber crews confirmed defensive actions that should not have been possible by single fighter. January 13th, 2 days after mission. Lieutenant General Ira Eaker visits RAF Boxted. Eaker is 57 years old, career Army officer. Commanded bomber operations that nearly failed in October 1943. Black Thursday almost ended daylight bombing forever. Cost was too high, loss rate unsustainable. Then P-51 arrived. Then pilots like Harrison proved what was possible. Eaker understands significance of January 11th better than most. Understands one pilot doing impossible thing validates entire strategic bombing doctrine. Validates every decision he made. Every bomber crew he sent into Germany. Every loss he accepted as necessary cost. He interviews Jack in small operations, building room. Table, 3 chairs, coffee brewing in corner, smell of coffee mixing with cigarette smoke, hanging in still air. Eaker asks Jack to describe engagement. Jack is reluctant, uncomfortable with attention. War is full of brave men doing difficult things. His actions were necessary but not unique in his mind. Just did my job, sir. Bombers needed protecting. Protected them best I could. Eaker presses for details. Notebook sits open on table. Pen ready. 30 minutes of combat. 12 kills confirmed by gun camera footage developed yesterday. Ran out of ammunition, but kept attacking. Drove off remaining Germans through intimidation alone. Explain how you continued without ammunition, Major. Jack shrugged slightly. Germans did not know guns were empty. Flew at them like guns worked. Most broke off. Bought time until thunderbolts arrived. Simple as that, really. Eaker writes carefully. Pen scratches across paper. Sound fills small room. You understand what you did was extraordinary. 1 aircraft against 30. Most pilots would have turned back when outnumbered. Doctrine says, wait for support when facing overwhelming numbers. Jack looks at Eaker directly. Eyes show exhaustion, but something else beneath. Something harder than exhaustion. Something forged in 30 minutes over Germany. Doctrine did not write my wife's letter about her brother dying because fighters turned back at border. Doctrine does not explain to 600 airmen why you abandoned them when they needed you most. Doctrine is words on paper, sir. Bombers are people. People matter more than words ever will. Eaker nods slowly, understands now what drives this pilot. Why some men do impossible things. Not from doctrine or duty alone. From personal commitment that transcends military obligation. From promises made to wives. From debts owed to brothers-in-law who died before protection could reach them. From understanding that some things matter more than survival, when survival requires living with knowledge you quit when continuation was possible. He closes notebook. I am recommending you for Medal of Honor. Your actions saved 600 lives. Demonstrated courage beyond any measure we have words for. You deserve the nation's highest recognition. Jack says nothing for a long moment. Then quietly, 12 Germans died, sir. Their families received telegrams too. Mothers and wives crying in Germany, same as mothers and wives cry in America. Not sure that deserves medals. Eaker stands preparing to leave. War requires killing major. You killed to save. That is the difference medals recognize. Not the killing, the saving. Your actions prove daylight. Bombing can succeed when fighters have range to protect bombers throughout mission. Your actions validate every decision about P-51 procurement, every dollar spent, every bomber crew we send into Germany. You prove the system works. That matters beyond words. The recommendation moves fast. Usually Medal of Honor approvals take months. Committees review carefully. Witnesses testify. Evidence accumulates. Bureaucracy grinds slowly through multiple levels of command. Jack's recommendation takes 6 weeks. Witnesses are overwhelming. 18 bomber crews. Gun camera footage. Radio transcripts. Evidence so clear that hesitation becomes impossible. Outcome inevitable. March 6, 1944. RAF Boxted. 54 days after mission. Entire 354th Fighter Group assembles on flight line. 500 men in formation. Dress uniforms despite cold March wind. Sky gray. Temperature 40 degrees. Wind gusting to 20 knots. But men stand steady. Brigadier General Jesse Oton arrives from 8th Air Force Headquarters. Staff car. Driver. Aide carrying wooden presentation case containing medal. Ribbon is light blue silk with 13 white stars representing original colonies. Medal itself shows Minerva holding shield and sword. Eagle. Banner. And America's highest military decoration, reserved for valor above and beyond call of duty. For actions where death is probable and duty undeniable, and choices made to serve others regardless of personal cost. Only given when evidence is overwhelming, when multiple witnesses confirm, when actions exceed what orders required or doctrine expected. Auton reads citation. Voice carries across silent formation. Men stand at attention, listening. Wind snaps flags. For conspicuous gallantry and intrepidity above and beyond, call of duty in action with enemy near Oschersleben, Germany, on 11 January 1944. Major Jack Harrison single-handedly defended formation of heavy bombers against attack by 30 enemy fighters. He destroyed 12 enemy aircraft and drove off remainder through aggressive action despite being heavily outnumbered. After exhausting ammunition, he continued attacking using superior flying skill and intimidation to prevent enemy from reaching bombers under his protection. His heroic actions directly saved lives of 600 American airmen. His gallantry reflects highest credit upon himself and United States Army Air Forces. Auton places medal around Jack's neck. Weight of it. Ribbon against uniform. Medal against chest. Jack salutes. They shake hands. Photographers capture moment. Flashbulbs pop. This image will appear in newspapers across America tomorrow. Stars and Stripes, New York Times, Kansas City Star. Small-town Kansas City boy receives Medal of Honor. Proof that ordinary Americans do extraordinary things when circumstances demand and character allows. After ceremony bomber crew's visit from Dinathorpe, 30 men traveled specifically for this, driving through cold March morning. Thomas Baker at front. He shakes Jack's hand, holds it firmly, both hands, looking at Jack with eyes that have seen too much but still show gratitude, pure and undiluted. Sir, I watched entire fight from ball turret. Coldest position on bomber. Best view of what you did. Counted every engagement. Never seen anything like it. Never imagined anything like it was possible. I wrote my wife about it. Told her I owe my life to man in silver Mustang who refused to quit. We had son 2 weeks ago. Named him James after you. James Thomas Baker. Wanted you to know that. Wanted you to know your actions that day created future that includes my son. That matters more than medals. Jack does not know what to say. Throat tight, eyes burning. Does not feel heroic. Feels tired and grateful. Baker survived and honored beyond words that someone named son after him. Congratulations on your son. Hope war ends before he grows up needing to fight in next one. Hope we build world where courage is measured in other ways. Lieutenant Charles Morgan steps forward, shakes hands. Entire crew shakes hands, each one thanking him. Each one understanding statistically they should be dead. That 60 bombers without escort over Germany facing 30 German fighters do not survive. That mathematics said they die, and one pilot rewrote mathematics through will and skill, and refusal to accept that mathematics determine outcomes when duty demands different result. Morgan speaks for all of them. Voice steady, but emotion clear. Major Harrison, we cannot adequately express what you did for us. Cannot find words sufficient. But we want you to know this. Every mission we fly from now until war ends, we fly knowing someone cared enough to risk everything for us. Someone valued our lives more than his own. That changes how we see this war. Changes how we see ourselves. Changes what we believe is possible. Thank you seems insufficient. But thank you. The mission changed fighter doctrine permanently. Before January 11th, fighters stayed close to bombers. Defensive escort, flying formation, protecting through presence. Doctrine emphasized staying together. Mutual support, conservative engagement. After Jack's mission, fighter doctrine be rewritten at highest levels. Fighters now authorized to pursue attackers aggressively, hunt enemy, clear sky ahead of bombers, engage at distance, prevent attacks before they develop. Doctrine shifts from protection to domination, from passive defense to active offense, from escorts waiting for attacks to hunters preventing attacks. Change happens fast. Within 2 weeks, new tactical guidance issued to all fighter groups. Within month, training updated. Within 3 months, 14 of 15 8th Air Force fighter groups convert to P-51 Mustangs. Pioneer Mustangs proved concept, showed what was possible with aircraft that had range and pilots who had courage. Other groups follow. Transition accelerates. By December 1944, Mustangs escort bombers to Berlin and back. 700-mile radius, deeper into Germany than anyone thought possible year earlier. Luftwaffe cannot hide anywhere, cannot find sanctuary. American fighters reach every corner of Reich. Control skies over Germany completely. Bomber losses dropped from 9% in October 1943 to less than 2% by spring 1944. Strategic bombing campaign that nearly failed succeeds. Factories destroyed. Oil production halted. Transportation crippled. German war machines strangled by air power that was almost abandoned but was saved by technology and pilots who proved technology worked. Jack flies 26 more combat missions after Oschersleben, shoots down 6 more aircraft. Total kills 17 by war's end. But he is never alone again. Fighter Command changes procedures based on his experience. No more solo operations permitted. Flights stay together always. Mutual support mandatory. Wingmen never separate regardless of tactical situation. Jack agrees completely. What he did on January 11th was necessary in that specific moment, but not repeatable, not sustainable, not something any commander should ask or any pilot should attempt. Lightning does not strike same place twice by choice. Luck does not repeat infinitely. War ends May 1945. Jack returns to Kansas City. Helen meets him at train station. Children grown taller. Jack Jr. now 4 years old. Emma 2. Normal American family reunited after years of separation and fear and uncertainty. They drive home through Kansas City streets. Everything looks smaller than Jack remembers. Everything feels precious in ways he cannot articulate. This is what he fought for. Not abstract concepts. Concrete reality. Wife. Children. Home. Normal life made possible by abnormal sacrifice. June 1965. Paris, France. Le Bourget Airport. International Air Show. Franz Muller attends as Lufthansa delegation representative. 50 years old now. Gray in hair that was black in 1904. Weight on frame that was lean during war. Face lined by years and stress and responsibility of flying, paying passengers across Atlantic. Captain on Boeing 707 transatlantic routes. 20 years since war ended. Germany rebuilt through Marshall Plan and democracy and determination. NATO member now, allied with America against Soviet Union. Former enemies become current partners because Cold War requires different alliances and yesterday's enemies become today's friends when greater threats emerge. Franz walks exhibition halls with other Lufthansa representatives. Modern fighters on display, jets, missiles, Mach 2 capability, everything different from war he fought. Different speeds, different altitudes, different weapons. But some things unchanged. Courage still matters. Skill still matters. Understanding that warriors respect warriors, regardless of flags they served during wars that seem increasingly distant. He sees display titled American Fighter Aces of World War II, photographs and citations, names and faces, men who killed Germans professionally and efficiently. He should feel something negative, anger perhaps, resentment, but he feels respect, professional appreciation for men who did jobs well. Major Jack Harrison featured prominently. Photograph shows Harrison standing beside P-51 Mustang, aircraft number 436315. Silver paint, battle damage visible even in photograph. Franz recognizes those markings instantly. The Mustang, the pilot, January 11th, 1944. The engagement that taught lessons Franz has carried 21 years. The day one American pilot defeated 18 of his fighters through will and skill and refusal to quit. The day Franz learned that courage has no nationality, that some things transcend wars and politics and nations. He reads citation carefully. Medal of Honor, only fighter pilot European theater to receive highest American decoration during war. Single-handedly defended 60 bombers, 12 confirmed kills. Continued fighting after ammunition exhausted. Every word true. Franz was there, witnessed it, tried to kill this man and failed because this man refused to accept that death was inevitable outcome. He asked exhibition staff simple question in accented English. Learned it post-war. Is General Harrison attending show? Brigadier General Harrison retired, sir. But yes, attending as United States Air Force delegation. Expected this afternoon for reception. Franz waits 3 hours. Coffee. Conversation with other delegates. But mind elsewhere. Thinking about January 11th. About 18 fighters against one. About shame of defeat mixed with respect for opponent who won through superiority that had nothing to do with aircraft and everything to do with pilot. Finally, Harrison arrives. Small delegation, American uniforms, polite conversations. Franz recognizes him immediately even after 21 years. Older, gray hair, but carriage unmistakable. Fighter pilot. Always fighter pilot regardless of age or time or years since last flew combat. Franz approaches during reception, nervous, uncertain. Not fear exactly. Respect mixed with uncertainty about whether reconciliation is possible or welcome or wanted. General Harrison. I am Franz Muller, former Hauptmann, Jagdgeschwader. First is January 11th, 1944. I commanded German fighters you fought near Oschersleben. I wanted to meet man who defeated 18 of my pilots alone. To shake your hand. To tell you that day taught me what American courage means. What any courage means, regardless of nationality. Jack studies Franz carefully, sees former enemy, sees current colleague, sees airline captain who once tried to kill him and now wants to acknowledge professional respect that transcends nationalism and politics and history. Extends hand without hesitation. Firm handshake, professional respect between warriors. Hauptmann Muller. I remember your formation. Disciplined, professional, well-coordinated. You could have killed me many times. Why did you not? We tried, General. For 30 minutes we tried everything we knew. But you did not fight like rational pilot bound by doctrine or tactics or concern for survival. Fought like man possessed by purpose greater than life. No ammunition but still attacking. We broke because minds could not accept what eyes saw. One pilot should not defeat 30 through any mathematics or tactics or courage. But you did, not through weapons alone, through will that refused to accept defeat as possible outcome. That is lesson I carry 21 years. That is why I wanted to meet you. To say thank you for teaching that courage continues when continuation seems impossible. They talked 2 hours. Conversation flowing naturally despite language barriers and history and everything that should make conversation difficult. About tactics during engagement. About fear both experienced. About duty both served. About understanding that warriors respect warriors, regardless of flags waved during conflicts that end while respect endures. Franz explains post-war life with detail born from wanting Jack to understand. After war, I became airline captain. Lufthansa. Flew DC-4s initially, then Constellations, now 707s. Very different from BF-109. Peaceful, comfortable, pressurized cabin, passengers reading magazines instead of dying in flames. But sometimes at 30,000 feet over Atlantic, I remember January 11th. Remember seeing your Mustang attacking, though. Guns were silent. Remember understanding that courage is not absence of fear, but continuing, despite fear, when continuation serves purpose greater than survival. He pauses, continues. That lesson saved lives, 1962. Flying 707 from Frankfurt to New York, 300 miles over Atlantic. 2 engines failed. Fire in number 3. Electrical failure in number 4. 707 designed to fly on 2 engines but barely. Margins very tight. Fuel consumption higher. Nearest airport 300 miles. I calculated, understood landing was possible but probability uncertain. Passengers never knew how close they came to disaster. 146 souls depending on pilot who learned 20 years earlier from you that impossible means only difficult when Will refuses to accept impossible as final answer. Jack listens carefully, responds after thoughtful pause. You saved 146 lives using lessons learned trying to kill me. That is strange circle, strange mercy. War teaches skills that peace uses. Killing becomes saving when context changes. Same courage, different application. Same understanding that duty matters more than fear. I am grateful you survived to save those passengers. Grateful lessons transcend wars that teach them. They walk Paris streets after reception. Notre Dame Cathedral rises against evening sky. Seine River reflects city lights. Beautiful city rebuilt from war that destroyed it twice in 30 years. Beauty proving that destruction is not permanent when commitment to rebuilding exceeds acceptance. That destruction won. Same lesson applied to nations applies to individuals. Former enemies can become friends when respect replaces hatred and understanding replaces blame, and wisdom accepts that war creates victims on all sides even when one side is clearly aggressor. Franz asked a question that troubled him for 21 years. Carried it like weight. Do you regret killing my pilots? Does guilt visit you in quiet moments? When distractions fail and memories surface, Jack answers with honesty, earned through 2 decades of thinking about this question. Every day I regret it. 12 men died because I pulled trigger. 12 families grieved. 12 mothers received telegrams. 12 wives or sweethearts cried. War made it necessary, but necessity does not erase responsibility or eliminate guilt or justify what happened in any moral sense beyond utilitarian calculation. That saving 600 required killing 12. I accept that their deaths allowed 600 Americans to live. Accept that mathematics favored keeping my promise over avoiding bloodshed. But acceptance does not prevent regret, does not eliminate dreams where I see their faces even though I never saw their faces, does not stop wondering about who they were, what they loved, what they might have become. I killed because situation demanded, not because I wanted to. That distinction matters to me even if it does not matter to their families or change outcome or bring them back. Franz nods slowly. Understanding written across face. Your honesty honors their memory more than denying responsibility or claiming war absolves all actions. You are good man, Jack Harrison. Better man than many who never fought. I am glad you survived January 11th. Glad you kept your promise to your wife. Glad we can meet as friends rather than just remember as enemies. Glad some things transcend wars that create them. They exchange addresses carefully, write them on paper, promise correspondence, both understanding that promises matter, that words spoken between warriors mean something. 2 men who were enemies 21 years ago, who tried to kill each other over Germany while following orders and serving nations, who now share wine and respect and understanding that humanity transcends nationalism when humanity is chosen deliberately over hatred that comes easily. Franz visits Kansas City in 1972, stays with Harrison family for a week, meets Helen properly for first time. She is 60 years old now, still nursing part-time at hospital, still strong despite years in stress and decades of waiting for telegram that never came but could have come any day during war. Franz apologizes for trying to kill her husband, for creating danger that could have made her widow, for following orders that required attempting murder of man she loved. Helen waves off apology with practical nurse's dismissal of unnecessary drama. You did your duty. Jack did his. Your duties conflicted that day. Does not mean either of you was wrong or evil or anything except soldiers serving different nations. War is over. Enmity can end. Respect continues. Welcome to our home. They correspond regularly after Paris. Christmas cards every year without fail. Occasional letters about grandchildren and retirement, and understanding that friendship built on mutual respect transcends everything except basic human decency. Final letters to each other are preserved in Air Force Museum archives, available to researchers. Evidence that warriors can become friends when war ends and wisdom replaces hatred, and time allows perspective that combat prevents. 2024, National Museum of the United States Air Force, Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, Ohio. P-51 Mustang sits in Climate Control Gallery. Silver bare metal finish restored to original condition. Every rivet correct. Every panel aligned. Everything exactly as it appeared January 11, 1944, except cleaner and safer and museum piece rather than combat weapon. Number 4, 36315, painted on tail in regulation font. Placard reads carefully researched text. P-51B, Mustang flown by Brigadier General Jack Harrison, Medal of Honor recipient. On January 11, 1944, General Harrison single-handedly defended 60 B-17 bombers against 30 German fighters. He destroyed 12 enemy aircraft and prevented all others from attacking bombers after ammunition exhausted. His actions saved 600 American lives. First P-51 pilot to receive Medal of Honor. His example inspired changes to fighter doctrine that contributed significantly to Allied air superiority over Europe. Visitors photograph Mustang constantly. Touch display cases carefully. Read placard. Most do not fully understand significance. Just old airplane from old war. But veterans know. Fighter pilots know. Anyone who understands courage knows. This aircraft represents moment when one person decided promises matter more than survival, and mathematics do not determine outcomes when will refuses to accept mathematics as final arbiter. Retired Air Force colonel stands before aircraft explaining to grandson, considering Air Force Academy. Colonel is 72, Vietnam veteran, F-4 pilot, 200 missions. Grandson is 18, listening carefully, trying to understand what grandfather is teaching. This aircraft grandson represents fundamental truth about service. One pilot, 30 enemies, 0 ammunition, continued fighting. Why? Because 600 people depended on him. Because he made promise. Because some things matter more than survival. Remember this when you consider service. Service means others depending on you. Means keeping promises when keeping them costs everything. Means continuing when continuation seems impossible. That is what this aircraft teaches. That is what January 11, 1944 means. Jack Harrison died 1995, age 84. Heart failure. Peaceful. Surrounded by family in same Kansas City house, 3 blocks from where he grew up. Helen died 2009, age 96. They had 55 years together after war. 2 children, 7 grandchildren, 3 great-grandchildren. Normal American family, except for beginning. That was anything except normal. Except for 30 minutes over Germany that defined everything following. Thomas Baker lived to 92. Named son James Thomas Baker as promised. Grandson serves Air Force today. Captain, F-35 pilot, 5th-generation fighter. Technology Jack could not imagine. But principles unchanged. Courage, duty, promise. Bringing them home. Legacy continues through generations because some lessons transcend technology and tactics and time. Jack Jr., retired Air Force colonel, flew F-4 Phantoms, Vietnam, 200 missions, different war, different enemy, same fundamental principle that service matters and promises must be kept. Emma married Navy aviator. Their children served, grandchildren serve. Legacy of service continuing, because understanding that service matters was taught at kitchen table where Jack and Helen raised children, with understanding that freedom requires defending, and defending requires serving, and serving requires sacrifice. Franz Muller died 1998, age 83. Lufthansa captain retired with full honors. Wife Greta survived until 2006. 2 daughters, 5 grandchildren. Normal German family rebuilt from ashes of war through democracy and determination and understanding that future matters more than past, when future is built on lessons learned from past honestly examined. Franz and Jack corresponded until Franz's death. 26 years of Christmas cards without single year missed. Occasional longer letters about grandchildren and health and memories and understanding that friendship between warriors is unique. Different from friendships formed in peace, forged in fire, tested by time, strengthened by mutual respect, earned through actions that transcended nationality. Final legacy is not medals or museums or monuments. Legacy is understanding transmitted across generations like precious inheritance. Understanding that promises matter regardless of cost. That courage is continuing despite fear when fear counsels retreat. That one person makes all the difference when that person refuses to accept that one is insufficient. That American values include keeping your word, and that military service serves those values not through violence but through protection of people who deserve protection. Jack Harrison's last words to grandson entering Air Force Academy in 1993 are remembered by family, recorded in letters, preserved through oral tradition, repeated at family gatherings. Fly like angels depend on you. Fight like demons fear you. Protect like promises matter more than life. That is what service means. That is what January 11th taught me. Promise me you will come home. Promise me you will bring others home. Keep those promises above all else. Everything flows from promises kept. The grandson kept promise. Retired Major, F-22 pilot, now instructor at Nellis, teaching next generation about air combat and courage and understanding that technology changes but principles endure. Legacy continues. Promises ongoing. Understanding that courage and service and keeping your word are not artifacts from past wars, but eternal principles every generation must learn and practice and transmit forward. The Silver Mustang sits silent in museum, representing moment when impossible became possible through refusal to accept that impossible meant stop. When one became sufficient against 30 through will mathematics could not calculate. When promises kept through bloodshed still counted as promises kept because bringing them home mattered more than bringing yourself home. 1 against 30, 37 minutes, 0 ammunition, 12 kills, 600 saved, promise kept, legacy eternal. That is Jack Harrison. That is American courage. That is what promises mean when promises cost everything, and everything proves worthwhile because bringing them home matters most. Kansas City boy who grew up 3 blocks from airport, who learned to fly at 14, who made promise at 33, who kept that promise at 24,000 feet over Germany when keeping it seemed impossible, and impossible became irrelevant because promises mattered more. The Silver Mustang waits in museum. Silent witness today, one pilot proved everything is possible when someone refuses to accept anything is impossible, when someone values promises more than survival. When someone understands that bringing them home matters more than coming home yourself, forever remembered, forever honored, forever teaching that courage is continuing when continuation seems impossible. That promises are worth everything. That one person makes all the difference when that person refuses to quit. The lesson remains. The promise continues. The legacy endures. 1 against 30, courage against calculation, promise against probability. Promise one, always.